Thank you so much. Those are brilliant ideas that you've put forward. Well, I know if you give you more time, you'll continue to enunciate further on this issue. Well, let's go to other issues as a matter of fact at this point in time. Nearly 8 years on, and with just a few months left in office, many analysts has described Buhari's governance as a monumental failure on virtually every front, from the economy to national security, anti-corruption, poverty reduction, and just to mention a few. And the questions on the mind of people that despite this, Buhari has continued and repeatedly strived to say that he's committed to ensuring that the general election is free, fair, and credible. From your opinion, how committed, in your opinion, is the President Major General Muhammadu Buhari to actually ensure that to conduct a free, fair, and credible elections come February 25 to 2023?
We cannot speak for Mr. Buhari. The truth of the matter is that I want to be very honest. We are not just interested in taking political shots because, okay, whenever you have the opportunity, you just criticize the president. No, that's not what we're doing. What we're trying to say is that going by how he has governed for the past, almost 8 years now, you wouldn't blame us if we doubt his ability to guarantee anything. I mean, he came promising so many things, and he has delivered very little, if any. So we doubt that ability, but we encourage that. We want to encourage him. At least if that is the only legacy he's able to leave, that would be very well. I mean, what has to be done to ensure credible elections? The state and its institutions responsible for those elections must be, not just credible, but also unbiased. They have to lean neutral. They must not have a candidate. They must not have a preference. The security agencies that will be brought out to protect the elections and protect Nigerians as they go to vote must not have any subservience or loyalty to any politician. Now, no individual should be allowed to terrorize other Nigerians because they have massive command over thoughts and they can buy these thoughts. And Mr. Buhari has said that, yes, he wants to stop him from doing that. And quite frankly, look, we commend that. You're not going to hear us commend him for so many things. But if that is the intention, we quite frankly commend that. The ability to employ the state power that he has to ensure that there are no overloads. No man, woman should be bigger than the state. No man, woman should have the capacity to impose himself or herself on the people of Nigeria. Electoral contest is a contest of ideas. You offer your ideas to the Nigerian people, they like it, they are then allowed to freely, without encumbrance, without any sort of pressure or intimidation or threats or even blackmail, to elect whoever it is they want, whoever it is they wish. Now, in interacting with Nigerians across board, we have seen that they don't buy into the politics of the APC, the PDP, and some of their appendages. We know where exactly they are going to trend if the elections were free and fair. So yes, in summary, we commend those efforts. But I have to add very quickly that ultimately, the sanctity of any electoral process is guaranteed by the vigilance of the electorate. The people of the country, not the goodwill or the best intention of the president or any politician for that matter, but the people of Nigeria, through their vigilance at the ballot box, so their refusal to be compromised, their refusal to be sold lies, and their refusal to collect Esau's porridge, or is it Jacob's porridge? All right, and then hold to the fire the feet of those politicians that have failed them in the past. Vote the African National Congress and our candidates across board massively, especially our presidential candidates Onyinye, and then usher for themselves a nation of which they will be very, very proud. So that's really a sentiment to Mr. Buhari's system. I don't know if you're coming with the BVAS question or you want me to
exactly. That's exactly where we're going now. To we saw the recent tribunal judgment in Osun State, and questions are being raised as to the integrity of the beavers itself. What's your view about? What's your opinion about this? And do you really trust in beavers? And
well, the every technology ultimately will be deployed by humans. All right, and in a technologically disadvantaged environment like Nigeria, it becomes even more challenging. So it means that the ability of that technology to guarantee a fair process, all right, leaves a troubling amount, to humans still. For example, the beavers has to be it ensures the credibility of the polls through accreditation, because then every vote that is entered into the system must match the accredited number of voters, or else you have a problem. Now, in your shoe case, from what we have read, and INEC has argued that it's actually because of the deployment of the beavers that irregularities were spotted, and then you have to cancel the elections. Now, we're not looking for elections that get cancelled after they have, because it costs a lot of money to conduct these elections. It costs so much to conduct money that we could deploy to do it. We want to be able to organize elections and have them be free and fair. Remove the ability of individuals from inserting their hands into the pot. So the beavers, I have to admit, is a progressive movement forward from where we were in the past. I mean, we all remember the elections of 2007 held by the infamous Maurice Iwu, perhaps the worst election conducted in Nigeria's political history. All right. Now, down to 2021, 2022, and then 2023, you now have the beavers, where you can pre-accredit people and then ensure that every vote that enters the system matches accreditation numbers. That is a significant progress. Now, there's then the problem of, and I listened to the INEC chairman in the last interview he had with the BBC, where he was asked where you don't have network. All right, because the idea is that after voting and the votes are counted, the numbers entered on the beavers are supposed to be uploaded immediately so that they go into the INEC central server and nobody's able to compromise them en route to any collation center. And he said, yes, that when you enter the number into the beavers, as soon as you get into the next location where you have network, that those numbers become available. Well, unfortunately, for those of us who are lawyers, if you were to carry out a system audit, now that point from where there's no network to where there will be network is what we call a blind spot. All right, and anything can happen in that interval. It's a vulnerable interface, all right, for which you have to find a solution. And yes, the nation's technological backwardness, it creates an objective challenge which INEC has to confront. So all in all, the beavers is a significant way forward. Now the politicians have resorted to buying the votes because they now know that the votes count. I think with the beavers, they are even more desperate for money. I think that's why there's so much hullabaloo within the APC over the monetary policy, and even the PDP as well, because now they can't buy votes. But if the beavers has ensured that the votes are counted now, that at least people must vote, and that votes, must count. That's quite progressive, and we hope that INEC will take a very tough position on some of the ad hoc staff who assist these politicians to compromise the process. If that is done, we're going to get progressively better.
In recent times, we've seen a gathering momentum. Nigerians are clearly saying they wanted a viable third political party, and based on what we've seen in modern history, the country has been dominated by the APC and PDP parties, almost to the exclusion of others, effectively creating a near two-party monopoly on power in the executive and national assembly, as well as the state level. Other parties have never really broken through. How do you intend to change this trajectory at this time?
Well, the beautiful thing about electoral contest, when held freely and fairly, is that the best ideas ultimately win. Now, if you listen to, again, our presidential candidate put it in the best way. He said, we are main street candidates. So we're not mainstream candidates, right? Now, we are in the streets of Nigeria. We're listening to the Nigerian people, and it is the feedback that we're getting from them, our experiences of the challenges that they're facing, that we have used to even craft our programs and put together our intervention in this process. And it is the same feedback we're getting from them that has exposed to us that the APC and the PDP, and quite frankly, the appendages, belong to the past. All right. The Nigerian people know this. All right. You see, they say, fool me once, my fault. Fool me twice, then there's a problem, right? Now, the Nigerian people have been fooled separately. They now understand that, well, this game no longer works. We have been to parts of the country where people tried to, use religion and ethnicity to campaign. And the message is that of acceptance. Nigerians are now saying that, no, we want this candidate, not because he has our faith, not because he has our tribe, not because he speaks the same language as myself, but because we think he's credible. We think he brings, or he means well for the Nigerian state. Now, it is this massive rejection of what they have fed the Nigerian people for these many years, all right, that has destroyed them. We didn't, in fact, we don't even have to do much. All we have to do, which we are doing, is to constantly explain to the Nigerian people that the earlier they are rejected, the better. It's not a question of, okay, let us try this one. The way Nigeria is, we don't need the good man to be leader. We don't need the good man leader because the problems are systemic. All right? You need the individual. Yes, you need the good man. Make no mistakes about that. A good person is needed, no doubt about that. But that's not all that is required to deliver. You also need the individual with the capacity and the force, quite frankly, to build a system that will withstand the assault of the so-called owners of Nigeria. Because believe you me, the only way the country will change is through the sort of fundamental transformation that we propose. And the only way you are going to bring about that transformation is by holding some people off. And in any system, not just in Nigeria, historically, any system around the world, those who benefit from the current system, no matter how terrible it is for the majority of the citizens, whenever you try to effect change, they fight like hell. Sometimes they even institute a civil war just to ensure that things remain the same. So you need the individual who is not subservient to the system, who is not subservient to the existing order, who is only loyal to the Nigerian people, who have shared, experienced, has partaken in their pains, and who has taken his time to build a movement and a team of experts to put together a set of transformative programs that will change the trajectory of the country. That is our confidence in confronting both parties, and we think we're going to do very well.
Now, let me put you on the spot here. What are the chances of your party winning office and holding forth on the floors of the National Assembly? Many analysts are saying that it's slim to none, with an emphasis on none. What's your reaction to this?
Well, the National Assembly is good. It's one of the arms of government under the sort of presidential system that we practice. So we are fielding candidates. I mentioned at our first interview that we have more than 200 candidates running for offices around the country. And many of them, quite frankly, we have over 100 senatorial candidates, quite frankly, and you have 109 senatorial seats. I mean, hypothetically, if we win half of that, we are going to be in control of the National Assembly, right? So we have people contesting, and we hope that our party will do very well in those elections. But make no mistakes about it. Our capacity to deliver to the Nigerian people is not going to be circumscribed by who controls the National Assembly. We're not going to have a situation where any party from the past will come in and prevent the plans that we have. I'll give you an example. When I spoke the first time about why CBN has not been able to carry out, regular, capitalist institutional intervention, to curb excess monetary supply, and then to also prevent politicians from using money to buy votes. I mentioned that it was down to systemic failure, right? The banks that are supposed to help to, implement this, if you were to carry it out, do not serve that purpose. Now, why is that? Because the constitutive arrangement of the Nigerian state, the structural setup of Nigeria, as of today, cannot enable that level of efficiency and progress. Nigeria is set up to fail. It's set up to work for very few people. And we have said that that is the first thing you need to tackle. And that's why we have said, as we are stepping in, we are pushing for a referendum, for a new constitution, a people-oriented constitution for the Nigerian people, one that will completely dismantle the wasteful bicameral legislature as you have it today and create a lean but very effective representative legislative body for the Nigerian people. We're not going to consume too much resources from our people, but we'll also do so much for them, centered on them, not a place where retiring governors will come and sit and do nothing. No, we want to create a legislative chamber that is worthy of the people that they represent. So that constitutional intervention that we're planning is going to take care of a whole lot of these things that you have mentioned. But ultimately, when we get the constitution, or even before we get the constitution, all right, when we were young, they said, if they put sugar for your mouth, they spit out, all right? No politician, regardless of their party, when we put our programs on the table. I mean, go and check some of the parties. Many of them are literally copying. They are lifting what we have and they're putting it into their own because they believe it is good enough, right? So we are confident that when we put these programs on the table, in order to implement them for the Nigerian people, they are not going to do that. And if they try to hamstring us, we're going to find a political solution around it.
Now, let me also get your view on these pressures for negotiating a political solution over the issue of free, fair, and credible elections have been mounting from various stakeholders and others, and political observers and watchers saying that the current government that has too much deficiency in terms of democratic norms and practices, which needs to be addressed. What impact do you feel these will have on the next national election?
Well, I mean, what you call elite consensus is always very important in the progress of any society. Now, what we know is that at any given point in time, a section of society is going to be in charge, it's going to control power. The dynamic we are proposing is that this time, the Nigerian people should be that section, right, that is controlling power. Now, what has happened traditionally in Nigeria is that the controlling elite, those who have quartered political and economic power, all right, within themselves, have failed to reach a consensus, an agreement on how to move the country forward. And part of that failure is reflected on the sort of elections that we have, how they have struggled over time, all right, to be able to allow credibility in the electoral process. In most countries around the world, even in very, very faulty climes, elections are allowed to, sieve leaders, because elections, quite frankly, are, sort of a gauge on the people's mood. All right. If you don't allow them to vote freely, you are telling them to use other means. That's what you're telling them to do. So most of these societies have advanced to the level of saying, okay, look, we are going to fight when we're in power. We're going to fight ourselves politically and other. But when it comes to the process of selection, let us allow the people feel their power for once. And it has worked for them. Many liberal democracies have lasted for as long as they have lasted, even with massive or massively faulty economic templates, because the people have this idea that they are part of that process. That is what the Nigerian ruling elite has failed woefully to achieve. And despite all the discussions, we were part of the peace accord. As a matter of fact, our candidate gave one of the more rousing speeches at that forum. Despite all of that, we're still very concerned that they will not be true to what they signed on paper. All right. As we said at that forum, some of the more violent people in the country are political office holders, not the Nigerian people. All right. Some of these governors, with humongous resources to play around with, they recruit thugs. They chase out Nigerians. The elections in Lagos, we know what is going on, for example. People can't post posters. All right. Yeah, people can put posters. There's a particular candidate with his individuals going around taking photos. So we're going to be able to stop that. Now, some of those things you can't force into being, right? You need this consensus I mentioned. It takes the politician to say, okay, let me play by the rules. Let me be noble. Let me try and contest this fairly and see if I can win. Now, if these politicians are unable to do that, then we have to be able to come up with a system that compels them to do that. And that's why Mr. Buhari's resolve, if he keeps to it, to ensure that the security agencies are not compromised, currencies are not deployed for buying votes, and no section of the country, all right, is overwhelmed with thuggish intimidation, is certainly a welcome development.
Now, let's get your opinion on one of the trending issues in the country today, and that has to do with the recent insinuations by the Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, that some fifth columnists in the State House were working to frustrate the victory of their party's candidate, even though the federal government had come out to denounce such insinuations. May I ask, are we seeing an implosion of the ruling party?
Well, I certainly hope so. We have not hidden our joy, to have such an implosion. I mean, certainly that party has been very toxic for the well-being of the Nigerian people. The bigger it got, the more powerful it got, the weaker the Nigerian people got. The richer its operatives became, the poorer the Nigerian people became. The more protected they became, the more exposed and insecure the Nigerian people became. So if it implodes, it's certainly a weapon. And I don't see many Nigerians that will argue with that. But the question is this, Mr. Nasir El-Rufai, who is a governor, and who is supposedly educated, at least that's one of the cards he used to sell of himself in the past, one wonders why he's worried about his party's chances, simply because the government is trying to curb excessive supply of cash. Does it mean that he subscribes to vote buying? Does it mean that an allegedly enlightened man like him believes that citizens should be compromised and their loyalty purchased at the ballot box? Does he believe in the use of thugs? Could it be true that he has been alleged, that he has used thugs in the past to win elections in Kaduna State? So these are certainly very valid questions that you can ask. Other than that, what the Nigerian people are seeing is the welcome disintegration of an unholy alliance that has helped to destroy whatever prospects our country had over the past 8 years. And if their disagreement will birth security, prosperity, and economic transformation for our people, it is certainly a welcome development. And there's one more thing I should add, though. There's one more thing I should add. Look, the Nigerian people must sit back, watch, and enjoy, because it's not every time that these politicians fight. That's why whenever it happens, we like it, we enjoy it. What they do typically is that they set the Nigerian people fighting amongst themselves. All right, but for the first time, all right, we were seeing them fighting. And as the elections approach, they are cudgeling themselves. The APC presidential candidate is attacking the sitting APC president openly and in an unflattering manner. All right, no hesitation, no attempts to hide his disdain. And so that is certainly welcome. And that is why I mentioned earlier on that while in the past their crooked unity has helped them to be unholy overlords over the Nigerian people, the material conditions under which our people live, all right, have turned the game on its head. It is no longer the Nigerian people fighting against themselves. It is now the politicians who used to trigger that war that are now fighting. And we relish it. We certainly welcome that war.
Now then, we just have about like less than 3 minutes ago. Let's get your final word to Nigerian electorates as February 25 approaches. What's your advice to the Nigerian voters?
To the people of our country, we have one message. This election is monumental. It's perhaps the most important election since the birth of our country, because for the first time in the political history of our nation, we have the opportunity to retire the old dogs and place the country solidly on the path to national transformation, put the country on a pedestal to growth, put the country on the same rank, give it a chance to compete with its peers around the world, instead of becoming the laughingstock of the world. We must not miss it. As you go to the polls, the African National Congress has put together the most transformative set of programs, designed, tailor-made, customized all right, to touch each and every Nigerian problem and address it for the benefit and welfare of the Nigerian people. Vote the African National Congress, vote Onyinye Sowore for president. He's got your back. He's been with you all this while. He's fought with you at the barricades. He's been fighting with you for over 30 years. He will continue to fight with you. You will have no better partner, no better ally in power than Sowore and the African National Congress. Reject these other parties and give us your mandate.
Robert Gandhi, it's always a pleasure and insightful having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for your time.